Chapter 8, A Secret Formula. On Wednesday morning, Drake and Nell hurried to school. Alexandra was already waiting outside the front doors. She tossed her golden hair while her radiant smile reflected the morning sunlight. Blinded, Drake stumbled over the curb and fell splat at her feet. "Oh my!" exclaimed Alexandra, putting her hands over her dimpled cheeks. "Sorry," Drake mumbled. Nell just sighed and rolled her eyes. If truth be known, this was an extra challenging case for Nell Mossy. All this nonsense about beauty princesses, mascara, and dazzling smiles were starting to get to her. What Nell really wanted to do was punch Alexandra Lansright square in her pert little nose, but that wouldn't be very scientific at all. Instead, Nell helped Drake up and brushed him off. As soon as the school doors opened, they rushed to check the posters. "Ah!" screamed Alexandra. "Great Scott!" exclaimed Drake. "Oh no!" cried Nell. "This is awful." And it was. Awful, that is. The posters, every single one, were ruined. Simply ruined. Black teeth and mustaches everywhere. Just then, Frisco and Baloney walked by. "Gee, Alexandra," Frisco said with a wink. "You look really good in a mustache." "Yeah," said Baloney. "Don't you think you should go to the dentist before all your teeth fall out?" Alexandra groaned. "See what I mean? I'm ruined. I'll never win." "But it doesn't make any sense," Nell said, looking puzzled. "We followed Frisco and Baloney until after school closed for the day, and they didn't come near the school." Said Drake, looking equally puzzled. Once Alexandra had gone to class, Drake and Nell found the janitor. They asked him if he'd seen anything suspicious. "Can't say that I have," he said, pushing his broom. "Of course, lots of kids stay after school. They do sports, projects, maybe a test or two. Can't keep track of everyone." "You don't remember anyone marking up the campaign posters?" asked Drake. "Posters? What posters?" The janitor looked where Drake was pointing. "Jeepers, she's an ugly one. Now, what were you saying?" "Never mind," said Drake with a sigh. Nell handed the janitor their business card. "Thanks for your time. Call us if you see anything." Then they walked back to class together, looking just a little glum. "This calls for drastic measures," said Drake suddenly, putting his fist in his hands. "Meet me at the lab after school." Drake didn't know what those drastic measures would be, only that they had to be drastic. After school at the lab, Drake pulled a book off his shelf and thumbed through it until he found the right page. "Evil plots, what to do when campaign posters are ruined and the election is coming right up." Nell sat next to Drake, and together they read the section. They looked at each other. "Let's get to work," said Drake. First, Nell called Alexandra. "Quick, we need more glamour photos. Drop some off at Drake's house so we can make new posters for you." Alexandra sighed. "New posters again? I'm sure it's quite necessary." "Tell no one." "You're the boss." Click. Without waiting for the photos, they immediately set to work. They pulled on surgical gloves. Snap! And then when the doorbell rang, Nell quickly grabbed the photos. "Thanks, bye," she said, closing the door in Alexandra's surprised face. There was simply no time to waste. Back in the lab, they worked and worked until finally they were ready. They pulled off their surgical gloves. Snap! "That should do it," said Drake, nodding with satisfaction. "Tomorrow at school," said Nell, her mouth in a thin line. "Be there." On Thursday morning, Drake and Nell hung the new posters. Again, they were careful to wear surgical gloves. When school was finally out, they didn't follow Frisco or Baloney. In fact, they went to the lab for a relaxing afternoon of experiments. Why, you ask? Because there was no need for surveillance. The next day was Friday, Election Day. Sure enough, black teeth, black eyes, mustaches, and beards were plastered all over the posters. Alexandra stamped her foot. "I thought you were going to get to the bottom of this," she screeched. Drake plugged his ears. He had no idea that beauty princesses could screech so loudly. When she stopped screeching and stamping her foot and turning purple, Drake said calmly, "I assure you, Miss Lansright, it's all part of the plan. Doyle and Fossey, science detectives, will nab your culprit in plenty of time for the election. Never fear. Now, here's what I want you to do," and he lowered his voice to a whisper. After Drake and Nell marched to the principal's office and received permission from Mr. Hong to carry the rest of their plan, Mr. Hong wanted to catch the bad guys just as much as they did. "Do what you have to do," he said, shaking their hands. "The full resources of the school are yours." That afternoon, all the students filed into the gym. Nell and Drake sat in the first row. Haley Glib sat beside them. Her fingers were crossed, the row of student candidates facing them. The hour wore on. There was speech after speech, speeches for wannabe treasurers, secretaries, and vice presidents. Finally, it was time for the presidential speeches. Frisco was first. I promise to be a good president. There will be no more homework, no more tests, and everyone will get A's from now on. So, he said with a smirk, vote for me, Frisco, because I said so. And he sat down to sounds of cheering and applause. Then Alexandria stepped up to the podium, and everyone giggled, except Alexandria, Drake, Nell, Haley, the teachers, and the principal, of course. Alexandria cleared her throat and flipped her glossy hair. Then she gave a rather nice speech about how she can make a good president, bringing beauty to the school and all that. And finally, to conclude, I would like to call on Doyle and Mossy, science detectives. Thank you, Miss Lanswright, said Drake, and now together they took the stage. Hey, wait a second, said Frisco, looking confused. I don't think that's allowed. Is it allowed? Drake ignored him and spoke into the microphone. Drake Doyle here. As everyone knows, an evil plot was hatched this week at Seaview Elementary. It was politics at its dirtiest. Doyle and Fossey, science detectives, were hired to handle the most difficult case. Miss Fossey? Thank you, Detective Doyle. Now cleared her throat. Our mission, of course, was to find out who was ruining Miss Lanswright's posters. So we set up surveillance, continued Drake. Only it didn't work. Not even close, said Nell. So we were forced to take drastic measures, said Drake. Is this going somewhere? Frisco whispered from behind them, or should I get some sleep? As I was saying, said Drake, ignoring Frisco, we took drastic measures. We made 20 new posters, lickety-split, but they weren't ordinary posters. Not ordinary at all, agreed Nell. We coated them with a secret formula. To be precise, we coated them with ultraviolet thief detection powder, said Drake proudly, a powder used by detectives everywhere to catch thieves. Nell looked out at the audience. It all has to do with light, you see. There are different levels of light. There is light you can see and light that is invisible to the human eye. Meaning, of course, said Drake, that you can't see it. Precisely. Ultraviolet light is light that you can't see. Ultraviolet theft detection powder absorbs ultraviolet energy and, when exposed to ultraviolet light, continued Drake, releases that energy in a form of light you can see, finished Nell. This is called fluorescence. So what? Frisco asked, yawning loudly. Does anyone care? Nell turned towards Frisco while speaking carefully into the microphone. Perhaps you will care when we flip out the lights. Huh? Cut the lights, ordered Nell. Suddenly the room was plunged into darkness. Everyone gasped, and then a great, scary silence settled over everyone. Finally, Drake spoke into the silence. Whoever marked up the posters is in this room. They don't know it, but they are covered with ultraviolet theft detection powder. In just a few seconds, we will turn on an ultraviolet light. And whoever it is, said Nell, will glow like a glow stick. Ultraviolet light, please, ordered Drake, and from behind Drake and Nell, a purplish light turned on. It took a moment before the culprit was revealed. Drake gasped. Nell gasped. Mr. Hong gasped. Alexandra gasped. Haley gasped. In fact, Haley gasped extra loudly because she was the one glowing like a glow stick. She jumped to her feet and pointed a glowing arm at Frisco. He paid me, she shrieked. Shh, hissed Frisco. You're ruining everything. I'll take it from here, said Mr. Hong. To the office, both of you, and out of the gym he marched, holding Frisco and Haley by the arms. After that, the lights came on, order was restored, the election proceeded, and Alexandria won by a landslide. Congratulations on your election victory, Drake said to her later, handing Alexandria his business card. Call us anytime. Oh, thank you, she gushed. You were awesome. Who would have thought it? Haley, of all people? Naturally, she was jealous of me. Alexandria tossed her hair and smiled quite dazzlingly. Most people are. All in the line of duty, said Drake, his heart pitter-pattering. Nell rolled her eyes. I think I'm going to be sick. And indeed, she looked rather ill. Later, at the lab, Drake wrote in his notebook, sighing just a little as he did, evil plot crushed forever, order restored. Alexandra, the winner, received one autograph 8x10 glossy photo, paid in full.